So like you say, let's not... won't overplay it. But, we'll use
I'm bricking it already. I'm well scared.
Hello and welcome to the book club, Halloween Spookfest edition. I am Bedgell and this is
Dibbs ahoy, reporting for duty at this day.
No, so I threw it over to you because I always say Dibbs instead of Dibbs ahoy, and I get corrected, and I'm like, man, I've been doing this for like a million episodes.
Don't get that wrong.
Can't even get your freaking name right. What the Jiminy? I'll tell you.
Trying to dox me or something here. That full name shenanigans.
Well, this lands at a crucial juncture in our spiritual evolution because we are mere days away from Hallowed evening. Hallowed evening. I went from the oldie timey world and I sort of just ended up sounding like I was having a stroke.
Relevant for ye old England tan kind of stuff, whatever.
This is such a mishmash of old world and old sort London of Cockney and the oldie tan.
Tan, mate.
It's top quality, and we are by now. Hopefully, you have all enjoyed many spooky delights that have come out of the channel in the past few weeks. We should, all things being well, have covered our bases of a cheeky bit of Castlevania. Specifically
Castlevania Resurrection.
Castlevania Resurrection.
Yes, the cancelled Dreamcast game, which I was very excited for, and that was a video that I was looking to make for a very long time, so I'm glad to have finally done that.
And I'm glad you have, and if any of you haven't seen it, then go and watch it after this. Don't hang up on this. Go. Let's just, people know
what's the matter with you guys.
You freaking Jiminy's. And a bit of Birdcage of Horrors as well, which was up until a couple of months ago was completely unknown to me. So I hope others have discovered that. And again, after this, go and watch that too. You've got a late night coming up basically because you've got to watch this and then go and watch those two as well, which is all good.
I didn't even know about it till yesterday, so it's very fresh to me. So.
It's like hot off the press news. Sure, it's like 20 years old, but whatever.
Yeah.
We're all about the hot topics.
Oh yeah, we are cutting edge, keeping everyone on the edge of the seat. But I also did Vampire Savior short as well.
Oh yeah.
So it's all happening.
I didn't know why I said that in a way as if I didn't believe you, as if I was like baiting you. Oh yeah, did you? Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
I freaking love that game. I never had many specials in my life, but I had a bit of Vampire Savior. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
Now. Today, we are following in the spooky theme, but we're going in a new direction, and we are covering. Would you like to tell us what we're covering?
Well, I bring out my prop
just
to, hammer it home. So it is the Master System game, Master of Darkness. Basically, Sega's answer on 8-bit to Castlevania. A lot of people call it a clone. I call it a game.
A rip-off. No, I'm not saying that.
I mean, it
too
is.
Early, too early. Yeah.
But
there's a lot of
Master of Darkness.
There's a lot of Master going on in that. It's like Master of
there
Darkness
is, and actually,
on the Master System. Are you a Master at Master of Darkness on the Master System?
Well, I got through it just about by the skin of my teeth. Yeah. But actually, you know what? I saw that the developers of it also made Masters of Combat on the Master System, so they love that whole Masters of stuff.
They are Masterholics.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
they are. They're loving it.
Oh, there's some rude jokes in there. I'm not going to make them because we're a family-friendly podcast.
We're mature. We're above that level of immaturity.
We can talk about it after. That's good. Well, I mean, so Master of Darkness was... it's one you mentioned to me quite a few times, and actually I was looking back when we first started talking about doing it. it was definitely you that mentioned it to me first. I didn't know it back at the time. I mean, we've covered before, but I had a Master System for a while, but I just had essentially a collection of games that were handed to me, and this was definitely not in it. And it was only when you mentioned it much later on that I even knew it existed. But did you say you had it back in the day, or you got it later, but some time ago? So,
I can't remember when I actually got it.
Spooky goings on with Siri.
Well, let me explain it to you. Like, basically, I don't know if I got it at a boot fair, or maybe I got it at CEX or something like that, but I've had it a long time, and it was before it started getting expensive, because it was one of those kind of under the radar kind of games. Like, everyone knows Castlevania and all those games and stuff, but like a lot of people I found didn't really know Master of Darkness until more recent years. So yeah, thankfully I got it by then, because when other people clocked it, that's when the prices start going up and stuff. So yeah, but this copy is pretty nice. It's got it's got the manual in it and all that stuff. So
happy.
Yeah, it's quite I was glad to get it. But like I say, maybe I got it at Boot Fair, or maybe I got it at CEX. I can't really remember where or when I got it, but at least I have it, and I'm happy about that.
It's one of those that falls in that classic category. If you haven't heard of it, like some Master of Darkness could be any kind of late 80s, early 90s shovelware, or it could be an absolute classic. You look at that front cover and you just think, I don't know which that is. It's either a hidden gem or it's absolute trash. Yeah. That's a beauty. I
don't know. Yeah, it's. To be honest, I've never really acknowledged the artwork too much. I always just look at the logo because I think that looks pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's tasty. Yeah. Released on the Master System, but also on the Game Gear as well, which we'll come to later. But
yeah, I'm always rocking that Game Gear top. So it's always worth a mention.
I didn't jump between the two at the time. I had them both at different times, and obviously over the years I've played a few titles that have been on both, but never really did the jumping between them type comparisons that we've ended up doing when we've done 8-bit games for Book Club. It's really interesting to compare the two, and we'll expand a little bit more on that. But they are obviously like very similar gameplay wise, but they do differ, and I will leave it there. We will return to that theme later on. I was thinking we gave a little teaser. We gave a little teaser of where we think we'll go, because we mentioned Castlevania, and that's obviously a big thread which we need to pull at for this particular story. But it doesn't begin necessarily with Castlevania itself. It begins a bit further, doesn't it? So a bit further back rather. So do you want to take that bit and like take us on, kind of starting with like a Nintendo position, I would think, somewhere around there.
Oh, so yes, like I've just realized what you were actually referring to. So basically, so back in the day, like Nintendo basically had everything sewed up. They had a complete monopoly on everything, not just like in the stores and stuff, but like also with all the third parties. And so all the third parties were producing games for Nintendo and basically leaving Sega out of the equation. So like obviously one of the big games from third parties was Konami with Castlevania, and Sega were kind of realizing there was a need to produce certain kind of games for their Master System, but they had to do it basically themselves, and they ended up putting a bunch of in-house development teams together, and this Master of Darkness was the product of one of them. But just to kind of nod to a couple of the other games they made, there was the Metroid-like Zillion. I see people say that was the kind of answer to. And for Zelda they had Golden Axe Warrior and stuff, and basically for Castlevania there was no beating around the bush, really, was it? I mean, it's like there's no denying the similarities for this one. It's very Castlevania-y, but in a way, I kind of think like in my mind, I kind of bracket it in the same. It's almost like another Castlevania game because it's so similar.
Yeah, no, totally.
But I love that. I love it. I love the fact there's another option. So
it's a great thing, and you know what's interesting? Obviously, now we've a lot of history to look back on, and in these times, if someone came out now, like an indie dev who loved Castlevania growing up and now wanted to make a game that was an homage to Castlevania and made this, people would just be in raptures about it because it's
Yeah.
you know, it really captures the spirit of it. Obviously, musically, graphically,
there is actually
theme-wise.
kind of that sort of thing that's gone on recently, because you know Bloodstained
Yeah,
by the Castlevania guy.
yeah.
You know, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. Put it on the screen or something because I'll butcher it. But he, when he was making Bloodstained, he also made 2 versions of 8-bit style games. I think it was called Curse of the Moon or something like that, 1 and 2 perhaps. I might have got that wrong. I think one of them was at least called Curse of the Moon.
Yeah.
But they were the 8-bit style ones, and they were hype. They were really good. So if you're ever in the mood for a new kind of Castlevania 8-bit style kind of thing, definitely play those 2 games because they are awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the fact that Castlevania as a theme established, well, through the exploration phase, but it established more than just Metroidvania and exploration. It established a theme, a gothic angle, that like the structure of the levels, the type of enemies you face, the weapon system, all that sort of stuff. And those themes have obviously threaded through Castlevania games and through loads of others where you'll find similar things to that. And I think there's no harm in another one coming along and doing a good job of it as well. But
really good job.
But it does make me think that you kind of do have to remind yourself that Sega had huge periods, certainly early in its life, but then again at times with Saturn. And Dreamcast to an extent, but where it had to do first party to basically make up the numbers. You know, it had to massively push its own first party line, otherwise it just wouldn't be the content. And you sort of think, now how Sega's first party content was its strength, and it was. But there's also the reason for it was because it didn't have a lot of choice. You know, it just couldn't get that backing.
They had to crack into had to break into it. And it's like even on stuff like further on the Mega Drive, they were still like licensing Strider from Capcom and stuff like that. Like Capcom didn't make that game themselves, like Sega made it. They didn't make Mercs, Sega made it. They didn't even make Final Fight CD. Sega made it. It was when Capcom's first actual Mega Drive game was Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition, and even before that they were like licensing it out to some other company to have a crack at making the Champion Edition.
I remember it. I remember you saying in your video, that sort of that early prototype with the black border at the top.
That wasn't.
See, I watched it.
Capcom. See? There you go. Well done.
It's convenient.
10 grid points for that one.
Look, I say that as if I don't watch every one of the videos about 20 times from putting them on the channel, but I did watch it.
That's where our views come from, huh?
Yeah, it's all just me. Like,
I knew there was someone out there.
I just realised before we started the video, obviously I was trying on various stupid Halloween outfits, and sort of figuring I'd maybe explain it at the start of the episode. If you happen to listen to this on the podcast and not watch on YouTube, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I was currently sporting a beret and 2 skeleton hands at the top. I mean, this is basically what you get if you leave to the last minute the idea of dressing up for the Halloween special and then just get what you can from Sainsbury's.
Well, I think it's impressive. It's giving me the illusion that some dude is hanging off the back of your head right there or something.
Classic Tuesday night, yeah. And filth. But, you know, regular viewers, all 10 of them from the Twitch days, will remember this beret as belonging to Poitiers La French, who talk like this for the whole time. We're going to go on a tangent now, but I don't think you were ever around when I did Grand Theft Auto roleplay. You know, it's a thing, right? So, you know, Grand Theft Auto Online is a massive roleplay scene. So there's like, I'm going to say hacked versions of the game. I think they're authorized, but anyway, you know, versions of the game specifically outfitted for roleplay. And, you know, developers mod them and they put their own challenges in, their own themes and stuff. But you go in and everyone is completely in character. And the one that I joined was this one with Joe Sugg was in it, you know, from YouTube and Strictly Come Dancing fame. Shout
I
out.
don't know. Sorry.
Props to Joe, by the way.
Does he play? Does he have a Sega Saturn channel? I don't know.
He does play a lot of games, so he probably
also, this
does.
game, it's not on the Saturn. I don't know.
So, but he's also dating the loveliest. I'm not going to say anything smutty, but the loveliest one of the dancers from Strictly Come Dancing, which is the only reason I watch it. Anyway, well done, Joe. Double props.
Shout outs to you.
But the point of this rambly tangent was that I had to join, but to join, and it was also had that Jay from the In-Betweeners was in it as well. So both, he was a policeman and Joe Sugg was some kind of renegade, but they were all in it. And but you had to stay in character. Before you joined, you had to submit a character profile. So I submitted what the French, but without realising that meant every time I played, I had to do that French accent constantly. So if you want horror, forget Master of Darkness and watch a clip of that, because
I'm going to be checking that out now.
It was awful. So anyway, back to like Master of Darkness, Castlevania 2. But we were saying before, one of the interesting things is that they got Sims to do it. So Sims, I remember Sim's name, but I don't remember the origin. So we looked it up, and there was this company, Sonitsu Denki, who created games, arcade games and Sega games under license. So they did Sega IPs under license. So same kind of theme, but like passing it down the pecking order through the 80s and into the 90s. And then in the early 90s, I think it was in 91, Sega and this Sonitsu Denki had a merger. Like good grammar. Who did a merger?
Top class.
Top quality. They did. You can tell I don't work in business, can't you? Hello, everyone. I'd like to do a merger. Anyway, where am I going? It's late. So anyway, it's
good wherever.
They created a merger. This is getting worse. They did a merger and created this team, which became an in-house team. So Sega had a lot of these, and they still do it today with the likes of Atlas and the one that makes the Like a Dragon series. They're under the Sega umbrella, but they're still standalone companies. And they did it with a load of the AM divisions that they did. AM became AM Annex, which and either AM Annex was like a standalone company, or it was then United Game Artists and stuff. Around the early 2000s, they did loads. They carved off a load of their in-house divisions and made out of house division, new companies anyway. But they've always had this. They've always had this setup of having like core properly in the building teams, and then licensed teams that come in and do partnerships and stuff. And this is what this Sims did. And Sims' job basically seemed to be to do 8-bit, let's call them knockoff versions of the arcade or 16-bit classics. So they did what I mean. You picked up a few choice ones. I had a game. No, sorry, I was going to say the wrong thing. There's Fantasy Zone on the Game Gear. They did some Mega Drive stuff as well. Dynamite Duke. They did the Game Gear Aladdin.
Yep.
What are the others
I thought they did the Master System one as well. Might be wrong.
Oh yeah,
they did Outrun on the Game Gear.
Yeah.
Alien Syndrome.
Yeah.
That 8-bit one of that.
8-bit
Ninja
one,
Gaiden. Did you say that already?
Gaiden, that's a good one. And
they're kind of like some of the jump out ones to me. So.
I just thought it was interesting that their job for Sega was essentially, I'll take the Sega IP and go and make me an 8-bit version of it. And it does seem very much that what they've basically said is, go and take the Konami IP and make us a knockoff 8-bit version of it. And it's, Well, I'm very glad they did. I'm very glad they did. I mean, they did a good job. One you've got to mention of theirs, because it came out actually only a few months after Master of Darkness did, was their Outrun 2019. Because it's kind of an outrageous addition to the it's kind of an outrageous addition to the franchise, because they had this game, what the hell was it called? Junker something? Forget it. Junker's High.
Yeah, I had the word Junker. I was thinking of Snatcher.
I know, I clocked it as well. I was thinking, is that a Snatcher reference?
Like, that could be Gillian driving the car.
See, that's what you need. Sims.
They should have done that. Put the car in from Snatcher.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. The turbo cycle. Get that in the game.
Because actually, you remember that scene in Snatcher where he goes into the club and there's all the Konami characters in the club, like Sparks, they're in the, I can't remember the others. there's loads of them. Anyway,
Yeah, like they got the Contra guys.
Contra guys in there.
What have you? The Castlevania guys. Yeah.
It's a bit of a test because obviously you have to ignore the fact there's a lady lap dancing on the stage to clock those
Isabella
people.
Velvet. Yeah.
Shows you where your priorities lie, doesn't it? It's like, it's like a psychological test. Did you spot Isabella Velvet, or did you spot the armadillo in the audience? So anyway, where was that going? This is tangent central this evening. So, but this outrageous game because they made this game Junker HQ. No, Junker High. Sorry, no, it got me. Junker's High, and they reskinned it to do Outrun 2019. And saying reskinned is really a stretch in itself because it is absolutely identical. I think all they've changed is the title screen.
Oh, the title screen, right? Yeah.
So it's that was their MO. I mean, they basically took an IP and then made a version of it, or in reverse, they took a version of something and made an IP. You know, so.
Although, did you speaking of Masters of Combat earlier, did you ever see that game or play it?
No, I don't know it. No.
Like, it's a fighting game basically, and I remember I have a feeling I first saw it on like, I don't think it was Games Master, I think it was like Bad Influence or something, but it was really like eye-catching because it was like, it didn't look like the traditional kind of Master System like 8-bit style fighting game. It looked really smooth and slick, and the characters were quite small, but they were quite well animated, and that was actually I think it was quite well. It's quite well received and stuff, and I think it's held in quite high regard now. But it was also like, I mean, I remember when game prices started going nuts, it was one of the first ones that started kind of getting crazy. Like, I think on the Master System, was it like Phantasy Star was really expensive, the actual cartridge of Alex Kidd in Miracle World was really expensive, and then Masters of Combat, that was one of the ones. Like, I remember like years and years ago, before things got too bad, like even then those games were like really expensive. So it's it's quite a sought after game, but like if you play it and like kind of see it, you kind of can understand that one's kind of like validated a little bit, like I think, because of it does seem to be quite good quality.
Yeah, I think I don't want to do them a disservice because they've made a few stinkers, but saying this is a knockoff of Castlevania is doing it a disservice because this is a good game, and they've made some other good ones. You know, I had Fantasy Zone on the Game Gear, and that was a good one. And I didn't have the Game Gear Aladdin. I'm not sure if I had any of the others. That's maybe the only one I had. But
I've got the Master System one. I guess I think it's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, another just screen size.
But actually. Yeah, I mean, actually, you know what? Thinking about it, I did enjoy that game. Like, it is pretty decent, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, I think they've got some quality, and I think what they've done here is, although they've undoubtedly started with the template of Castlevania, but you know, it's a game in its own right, and it's got some really good ideas in there. It's worth dwelling, as you just mentioned it, on Game Gear versus Master System because it did come out on both. And we did play both. I mainly played Master System, and I just had a bit dip my toe into the Game Gear one. But you were clocking there's like a few like key differences or a few key.
There seemed to be a few differences, yeah. Again, it was like the differences that I wasn't 100% sure that I was correct. But I remember, like, on the level where you first get to, you're in the kind of clock tower kind of thing, and you got the swinging pendulums.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got there, I thought that there was a life basically in the bottom corner that you could get.
Yeah.
And then when I was because basically what I did is I played through the Master System one, and I just watched a video of a playthrough of the Game Gear one to kind of compare. Like, so I didn't actually directly play the Game Gear one, but when I was watching it, I noticed when they got to that room that I thought was the one that was in my head, the screen seemed to end slightly sooner. So it's like it kind of felt like a bit was chopped off. But again, I don't want to say that's 100% true, just in case that's my old man memory like letting me down and stuff.
No, it sounds
right.
I
just thought there was a few little differences like that.
Because that's a bit with some exploration sections, isn't it? You know, on that around that, there's a few routes you can take, or there's certainly a few,
that's really
there's
cool.
bits where you can go up or sideways and stuff. And I seem to remember that bit that did collect that life. I'm sure you're right. And I mean, one thing is obviously screen size differs, and you get.
It's very zoomed in, like on a lot of Game Gear games, isn't there?
And I only played level 1 of Game Gear, and I liked it. because I like that dinky screen size. We were saying, so we were playing Sonic recently, and I think like it's the same kind of thing on there. I kind of like the fact you're right up close to the action. The character's right in your face.
It feels like he's faster or whatever you said, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think it's just... So I was playing both emulated, so there should be no difference in game speed. But I think it just feels faster because there's not so much scenery. And so, to get from one bit of the action to the next, you're on a small screen. I don't think they've cut out any of the distance to make it faster. They might have done. It just felt faster and a bit more... It felt like you were a bit more engaged in the combat because your sprite was that much like fuller on the screen, and some stuff felt a bit more satisfying. But it is exactly the same other than that I could see, because it was like everything, the controls, responsiveness, and the music especially was absolutely identical. So I can't say.
Well, I did notice when I was watching the video, I felt like the music was a touch faster. So it kind of made me think, like, was there something else going on? But like, I couldn't 100% be sure about like a direct comparison. But I sort of felt like the music was a little bit more, a little bit quicker pace. So then I started like doubting whether or not I was playing it at the right speed or something like that. But it was all, it was all good however I played it. So
for some reason on my emulator, the music on the Game Gear one was a lot like bigger and louder and nicer, but I don't think that was the game. I think that was just my emulator. But I mean, really, we've sort of gone in the wrong order, but talking about gameplay differences between the two and not the gameplay itself, because for me, like the big thing about comparing it to Castlevania or just discussing it at all is how did it play. So how did you find it? I mean, you've played it before, so this is not your first time playing it. It was my first time. How would you rate it? Like, how would you rate gameplay?
I actually enjoyed it more this time than when I played it previously, and I don't know if that's because when we do these book club things, I've kind of got in my head like I'm on a mission almost to get to the end, to see as much of the game as I can and all this sort of stuff. Whereas before, it was like, I was just playing it under my own steam, and I just kind of throw the game on and I just get as far as you kind of can be bothered to play, I suppose. But I think that additional element of playing it for the book club kind of engaged me more with the game. And I think it has done with a lot of these other games, actually, because I've probably finished these games, whereas before I probably wouldn't have gotten through them in the same way that I have done. But it was really cool just to see the whole kind of spectrum of what was in there, and kind of like just go right the way through it, and just like have it just be an enjoyable experience and stuff. Really, it really I really got into it, and I had a great time.
You do really feel that when you plow through a game and you feel all the levels and you get the flow of it. And with this one, because there is a storyline which will expand.
I like the story.
But there's a story to it, and getting the narrative in one big chunk, like playing the whole game from start to end, is like satisfying. I'll do a quick tangent just to sort of to plug book club as a concept, because we started out just saying one of the things still was it would be great to get us playing some of the games that sit in the background. But I found exactly the same as you, that I've got a massive backlog and a huge list of games I want to play, and on things like the ODE and the Saturn Dreamcast, there's such a long list. I find exactly what you just said. I'll pick it up, I'll play it, I'll have a good time, but I'll put it down quite quickly and forget about it. It's lovely to have that focus and to say,
totally.
let's really play it for a purpose, because you do commit to it, you get through a lot more of the game, and you really, I don't know, you appreciate it more. It's great.
You know what? It's almost like what's happening with our book club that I'm really enjoying is, when like Xbox 360 came out and it had achievements. It kind of pushed you to accomplish certain things. And the book club is kind of, it's almost like that. You know what I mean? It's like, I probably wouldn't play some of these Xbox games like as much as I did do back in the day to get these achievements and stuff. And it's like, it was a novel kind of thing, and it kind of pushed you into areas of the game that you wouldn't have necessarily gone to like off your own back. But I guess there's a little bit of an element of that, and that's why it's totally. Like really cool.
And so we've always said from the outset really keen for like people to play along and stuff, and I just don't encourage people to do it. If not with our games, then have a go at like sort of just setting yourself like an idea of playing a game, because it's so rewarding. It really is.
Yeah,
but we have got a good lineup coming up, so play along with us.
Oh,
anyway, right.
Yeah.
So the game itself,
Yes.
I mean, same like gameplay wise, I there are some really strong bits about it because I did like. It's very satisfying to hack into the enemies. I did like the range of weapons and stuff, but it's really,
I like that it progressed as well. Like as you get, I think you don't get like the stake kind of thing, like the kind of stake that you kind of throw, almost like ghouls and ghosts kind of style. Like it's but you don't kind of get that until I think the 4th stage. I think it is.
That thing's a monster.
And then like it's essential for the end boss. Actually, I mean that's all kind of I used on him because it like really just throws like millions of them at you, and it's like okay, I'm gonna need these.
Yeah,
like,
subtle hint game. Thanks a lot.
yeah. But then like when you get to the end boss, it's like right, yeah, I see why they were giving you these. So yeah, but it was pretty cool, and it was like a fun kind of way to progress kind of stuff, I think.
Yeah, and similar to obviously predate it, but similar kind of tactical dual weapon system. So you can obviously hold 2 at once, but when you pick one up, it replaces it. So lots of games do it, and obviously the replacing weapons thing is a theme in Castlevania. Like Gunstar Heroes does a similar thing.
Super annoying, and
they're super annoying.
I was glad that in Rondo of Blood they made it so you then could pick up your previous weapon again, which would have been lovely in this game because when you end up with that stupid knife, it's like oh, I didn't want that.
So you have to mention it if you haven't played it. Obviously, like one that you start out with a tiny little dagger, and it's like got no range, and it doesn't do much damage.
You have to hit the enemy a million times or something,
and it's a pain in the neck.
Oh,
it's a doubly gruesome thing because sometimes when you hit an enemy, they pause or freeze, and so you can generally stab them a bunch of times. But sometimes the really quick enemies will get loose if you don't stab fast enough, and obviously they'll come at you.
Yeah.
And so having the knife is a massive disadvantage.
Yeah.
And
you need the axe or that stick thing.
Yeah.
I can't really tell what it is. It looks like a long brown stick. Has it got like a hammer kind of top or something like that?
I didn't know if it was
that was
actually a
my
hatchet,
favorite.
but like that.
I don't know. It was something.
But the little knife.
It was hard to tell in 8-bit.
The little knife is, it's a developer prank or like, what would they call it? It's a trick, is it? Like they place it deliberately.
Yeah, like when they put it
right.
When they put it like right before like the boss of stage 3, it is like, oh man, I picked up that knife.
I'm pretty sure they put it before every single boss. So I think I had a few goes on the first couple of levels before like managing to get into the later ones, and I'm pretty sure every boss I fought, which considering I did a few times, was obviously a few bosses. I'm sure every time I had the bloody knife, and it was like, eventually I started learning to release the weapon first and have a look what it was, but it got me many bloody times. But of course, some of the better weapons they deliberately put them above like endless chasms, and so like
if something's good if it's like in a really awkward place or something. It's
except that I swear that they then play on
over a pit.
Yeah, puffs and spikes, but then they play on that and they put the knife in those positions. So that's a real punk.
They're
move,
messes.
Sims.
They are messes.
They are messes. So, but I mean, we were saying
you actually get called a messer, actually, don't you? At one point in one of the cutscenes, like messer or something.
I mean, it is good. It is satisfying when you land hits though, because certainly when you get the rapier or the long sword, or whatever it is. Let's call it a hatchet because it's definitely some kind of brown stick with a black bit on the end, so it looks like a hatchet.
Actually, I wonder if it's in the manual. This is one of the things I'm starting to learn from book club.
This is good.
Erased from my thinking.
Getting your manuals out again.
By modern games. Yeah, get the manual out. Let me just consult it, and if it's a complete waste of time, just edit.
Let's see. No, well, I'll say while you're getting it, I'll just like
my old man reading position.
They were really satisfying. They were really satisfying because there were a lot of one-hit kills of those, so you could really time them right. It's like when you've got the more powerful whips and stuff in Castlevania, and those one-hit kills when they're right at the end of your whip, and you just catch them right, and they like die.
Yeah,
that was the same with these because there's a lot less range. It's a lot more close combat generally, except obviously you get a gun which is like full range, and you can get that stake thing, which is
boomerang. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I would kind of. The boomerang was good when the bats are there, and you can see them, and they haven't triggered yet, and you can hit them before they then start messing with you.
And I've got to release some items sometimes. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I just found what it is. It's a It is a stake, a favorite among monster hunters. These do 3 points of damage. It doesn't look anything like a stake.
They need to work on their sprite drawings, because they don't look anything like a stake.
But that's what it says it is. There we go. Just Hammer Butcher's there.
Oh yeah. What's the black thing on the end? It looks like a hammerhead or something.
What, this? Hang on. This thing?
No, the one next to that.
That?
Yeah. So we're looking.
Yeah, that's it. That's the stake.
For those in the podcast,
stake.
Hi, we're looking at a manual on the screen.
We are pointing
it's a stake.
Things in the manual.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I'll call it a stake begrudgingly because it looks like a bloody hammer. It's stupid. Sid. So, but they're satisfying one hit kills is the thread.
Although it's only 1 more point of damage than the saber, which has good reach, but
I think
the enemies take a few hits, doesn't it?
I think the saber was my favourite, but then I mostly played through levels 1, 2, and then a bit of 3 on repeat, and only once got to level 4. So the saber is like a bit more effective because there is just a lot of times where you've got a lot of enemies going on. You need to clear one a bit further away really quickly so you can then turn and get someone else. Yeah. And that bit of range was quite useful. Yeah, it's only when you get overwhelmed and then you get the saber, it's like a lot harder to take people out because like if a bat's like swarming you and you need to, or whatever enemy it is, and you need to hit it a few times while something else is also jumping on you, that's when it gets a bit chaotic, which does sadly happen a fair bit. But I've got to say before we move on, that boomerang was a random addition because what you got the saber, the stake, the short knife, the gun. You get bombs, which obviously you throw up in an arc, and then you have to sort of get the arc right to hit people. But they're very powerful, aren't they? And then you get a boomerang, and I'm just like, it is a thing. Like in the Mega Drive one, there's a boomerang. Yeah. Like in the Mega Drive the Mega Drive one. I like the way you just said the Mega Drive Master Dice. I like the way you said it was a thing, as if they're the same series. Thing. Yeah. No, in the Mega Drive Castlevania, you get like a sort of, it's a boomerang looking thing. It's actually my favorite kind of weapon, actually. Yeah. But I'm always avoiding the other one so I can try and keep the boomerang as best I can, if that's what it actually is. It sort of looks like a boomerang anyway. I mean, it could be in all the games in the world. It's still a random thing to put in a gothic horror game. It's just like, and you will never catch me. I'm the Lord of Darkness. Hello, mate, but you ain't counted on my boomerang. It's just it's two cultures. Get what I'm saying with that? Yeah, I do get it. Yeah. You didn't expect the accents to come out, did you? You set me off. But I appreciated it. You set me off with the Poitiers French at the start. But I'm good. There's some negative gameplay things coming in a sec, so I'm going to sneak another positive one in before I go dark, which is that definitely the first 2 levels are a bit too simple, but when you get into levels 3 and 4, and it gets more exploration and it gets more kind of, there are some actual different routes to explore and different ways through, and you have to kind of do a bit of that like Vania backtracking and stuff, and that's really good. And I wouldn't say it's like puzzling, but it just feels nice to be exploring around. And then there's the bit with the clock tower with the pendulums. It's just, that was cool. There's a mix of platforming, skill jumps in there. It's like it keeps with the theme. It just looks very cool. The pendulum itself is very well animated as well for like an 8. Yeah, I actually wasn't expecting it. Yeah. It looks digitized, actually. Do you know what I mean by that? It looked kind of, because it's massive for one thing. So anyway, but it's very impressive section of the game. Yeah, it was cool. I like that bit. I like that when that came in. I do, and actually, like I say, the first ones are too simple. At level 2 in the rooftops, like that was cracking. Mainly just because it just looked so cool, and it was like you really got a sense of I'm up in the roofs of London, and I'm slashing some enemies. That's great. It. I mean, actually, you know what? We should just mention the story before we get to the negatives, because that all kind of ties in. We should have done the story earlier. Yeah, we should have done it, but like basically, well, actually, I could read off the back of the box. Let's go classic. By the way, I just got to say, you can't, obviously listeners can't see this, but when you do the reading and you say it's your old man thing and you put your glasses on your end of your nose, you're leaning forwards, that's old man, but you're currently wearing a baseball cap. So what I I can see when you do that is actually you look like a young whippersnapper that you've come in from the Beeble court or something.
Just keeping it real here. Yeah, so the back of the box says, the shadow of Dracula had spread over Victorian England. Make your way through strange and forbidding streets and cavernous warehouses while fighting his army of monsters. Find Dracula, the Master of Darkness, and rescue England from his terrifying grasp. So actually that doesn't really give too much like insight into it, but because there's this whole like these different elements like Jack the Ripper and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So it's like
it really
what I've written
chucks
down,
all the horror references it can in there, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean Dracula is the main thing, so it's
Dracula
like totally Castlevania. But like so Dracula is behind a series of killings. Everybody thinks it's Jack the Ripper, who is actually involved, as he uses victims' blood for sacrificial offerings being conducted by Count Mason, who is the boss, I think, of level 3.
Yeah.
And all this is being done to bring back Dracula. So you play as this character, Dr. Ferdinand Social, who is like not as cool as one of the Belmonts, to be honest, is it? Because he's like a psychiatrist or something, isn't he?
I just got to think, you put all the effort into creating a gothic horror game with all the themes and the artistry and the storyboards and everything. And then you stick with Ferdinand Social. I mean,
that was really quite a weird one.
Anyway, there you go.
But basically, he's on to Dracula, basically, and he needs to go to his castle and basically smash the place up, effectively putting right what once went wrong.
it's really quite consistent now. So, and I liked, I'm going to mention the reviews in a minute, but I like that in between the levels you get a cool little like spooky tune. It gives you a title like The Waxworks or The Streets of London or Jack the Ripper, whatever they were. And you get the little storyboard elements, like 2 or 3 frames.
Yeah, I really
of, like,
thought that was cool.
A nice graphic and a bit of text expanding the story. You know, there's enough story. There's not too much story. I thought it was well balanced. But
you know what? I really liked it. I really love the whole Jack the Ripper kind of thing and like that vibe of old London town kind of thing. And I was like, you know, just from the word go, I was like feeling it. It was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. You know, I think I had, like when I was laid up after a back operation one time, like I was watching like those tours of Jack the Ripper locations, like murder locations, and it was very fascinating.
Okay, we're going deep here. We're seeing another side here. Okay, I'm getting it.
I'm going to need to see Dr. Social, I think, after this. Yeah, but no, it was like, you know, that whole kind of thing is I thought that was really cool, you know. It was a good element to bring into this whole kind of thing, because it's not you know, there's nothing like that in kind of Castlevania. It's just all Dracula kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
so this added element was really good.
And they obviously have the story and stuff in Castlevania, but it's kind of, I liked the way they delivered it in here. And it's very keeping with the music. You know, we'll return to the music properly in a bit, but the music really works well. So you get the little incidental music in the cutscenes, and then it flows straight into the main themes, and it's great. I just have to mention my absolute favourite thing, which I was saying to you about earlier. You know, in one of the cutscenes, just a classic bit of text. So I forget it's talking about one of the count. I forget what's the count's surname. Do you remember?
Masson.
Masson.
Masson. Yeah, Masson.
And it's just talking about Count Masson. It says the strangely familiar figure who was floating in midair was Count Masson. But then it says, sorry, this is not going to be as funny to anyone else. It just says, it's just got a picture of the Count. It says, yes, it seemed that the Count was indeed involved in strange doings.
Well, you always got to have like those kind of quotes and lines and stuff like that in these kind of games. Like we were saying earlier, like the classic line from Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. What a horrible night to have a curse. All that sort of stuff. It's like Castlevania spawned those, and there was, what was the one from Symphony of the Night, like what is a man or something?
Oh, the
miserable pile of secrets or something like that. Yeah, it's like, you know, you see so many memes with like these kind of quotes in them and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that Master of Darkness kind of acknowledged that you need a couple of good quotes in there.
It's nice that it's done innocently as well. So probably translation stuff, most of it, isn't it? But it's done innocently because this is pre-social media. These days, this is like meme-tastic, perfect stuff, and it is part of it. You know, if you did do one of these remakes, you would deliberately put stuff like this in there, and it's always part of the horror the gothic horror hamminess of it as well.
Yeah.
In those movies, you'd always get over the top characters and over the top quotes and stuff. And so having an account that's involved in strange doings is it's definitely in keeping with it. But okay, look, we got to mention the negatives because I did enjoy the game, but my God, it does get harder. And some of the key things are, like we mentioned before about the pain of collecting the knife. It's you sort of get that sense of powering up. Oh yeah, I've got an axe. Oh, I've got the blade. I've got a gun. And then, oh my God, I've got a goddamn knife. And you just get
the knife
demoted.
is a nightmare.
And like I say, it was deliberately just before the bosses. I fought every boss with a knife. Anyway,
they were messes. But I can't. To be honest, I can't even believe you started with something other than the fact you can't jump on the stairs. You can't jump onto the stairs.
Yeah, you can't jump onto the stairs. No,
I could not do it. Is it?
No, it's huge.
Did you get it?
No. As far as I could tell, you can't jump onto. You can jump off the stairs.
Because you have to get certain items.
Yeah, like only kind of. If I'm right, you couldn't jump at any point. I seem to only be able to jump when I got near the top, or maybe you can.
Oh, really?
But anyway, it was a bit clunky whether you could.
Yeah,
or not.
yeah. I mean, I noticed sometimes when there were bats coming when I was on the stairs and I was trying to hit them. Sometimes it would kind of like ignore my first input. Yeah. I didn't know if I was in the wrong place or what was going on. But I kind of like had to mash a couple of times to get the attack
a little bit glitchy. And yeah, jumping on the stairs. I mean. Listen, you may be hearing this thinking it doesn't sound like a big deal, but this is a game with exploration in it. Even in single scene exploration where, you might be at the top and there's an item at the bottom and you want to come down and get it and then you've got to go back up the stairs. Those few seconds of having to walk all the way to the bottom of the stairs and then back up again.
I tell you what,
it's a pain.
The worst bit was, I think it was the boss at the end of level 4. There's like 5 levels, isn't there? And like this was like, so you're getting near the end of the game, but like the boss would kind of like disappear and reappear at certain points of on the screen basically.
Yeah.
And in order to get him when he was higher up, you had to walk up the stairs. But what you want to do in this boss situation is be able to jump around and move.
Yeah. Because he's moving quite fast, isn't he?
Yeah. I had to go back to the bottom and carefully line myself up and start ascending the stairs, and it's like I want to hit this dude. I want to jump from staircase to staircase, and that was like, oh man, that was I mean, like I didn't like it in other parts of the game, but that was the point where the stairs thing really did my head in.
I'm completely with you. That is a bit of a beast, that bit, and it's just obviously there is a lot of stairs, but even though it was very annoying, in turn, I can't believe that you'd start with the stairs and not the bats. I mean, like,
wow.
If there's one,
that's a whole chapter. All of it. Because actually, just before we move on from the stairs, you can't moonwalk on them either. Which is like you gotta moonwalk on the stairs. But
listen,
the bats.
I know we're like 30 years too late on this, but Sims, if you're gonna make a Castlevania game, you gotta moonwalk on the goddamn stairs.
Come on, sort yourselves out.
Get your fundamentals out, Jesus, Sims. So,
but like,
the bat. So. There's 2 things to the bats which you've got to throw in it together, I think, which is, and I'm not trying to really ham on the game, but these are important things. Hamming on a game is not a phrase before this, but now it is. It kind of means to get at a game in a negative way. There you go. But the bats, the bats are the most common enemy, and that's the first thing. The enemies themselves get quite repetitive by the end because there is variety. Every level introduces something, and it does mix it up, but then it starts to repeat them, and particularly the bats, which are just all over the place.
The bats are just like I mean, like of Castlevania, they're the thing I hate the most. The bats, because especially when they knock you back and you fall down the holes and stuff. So just to have these enemies, like in the first level, I was like, okay, the bats aren't that bad and stuff, but then like later on, it's like you just getting battered by
you're getting battered.
You're getting battered by the bats.
It was like, wearing down my gameplay batteries. Anyway, let's not that'd be even worse. But they're very random. They are, I'm gonna call it, I think they're cheap random, in my opinion. Like I think
I've seen a lot of people say they're cheap.
The developers, like they have a thing with all of the enemies, and the bats it's most noticeable, where the way they make it hard is not to have variety in the routines. It's basically to make the enemies zoom at you really fast. And it's like, okay, it does make it hard.
There was another enemy that did that.
Well, I think they all do it. Like the lady ghosts, the green ghost ladies that do it, the chairs do it. Like
I guess you can see them coming. There's more like this one particular enemy that's walking at a particular pace, and then he'll suddenly go fast. So it's like you're lining up ready to hit him, and then suddenly he'll zoom at you. Whereas kind of like the ghost ladies kind of are consistent, aren't they, with the speed they travel?
They are.
So it kind of like takes you by surprise.
And they're obviously bigger, and you can like, you know, the hitbox is easier to catch. But I think the thing is between this and Castlevania, those bats are small, but the weapons don't have a lot of range. You know.
Yeah.
Obviously, your ranged weapons are like the gun and the stake thing. You know, they're one, you get quite limited ammo with them, but two, obviously they're single shot. You know, it's not like a long whip or chain on Castlevania where you can kind of chuck it out and you'll catch things mid-flight. It is.
I was missing the whip in this game. It was like, you know, because it's so like Castlevania, you can't help but think like, oh man, I want the whip.
It just needed the range for me. It's like, because cheeky, cheapy enemy, I don't know which word I'm going for, enemies, like they need to be taken down a peg or two, and the whip is what does it for you. And but I just, you know, and so the first bit is main. It's not just the bats, but all the enemies that tend to have sometimes they have a bit of a cheap attack pattern. And with the bats particularly, there's loads of different types. There is variety, but like some of them zoom straight at you, which is annoying. Some of them swoop around you. There
are different varieties. Go in a circle. Some of them go horizontal, whatever.
And then,
but actually, you know what? I as much as they are an annoyance, when I kind of sat down to write my pros and cons about this game, I wrote likes. What do I like? Everything. And then it's like when I got to dislikes, I then had to kind of think about it. Like, those bats were kind of annoying, but like, you know, I kind of didn't feel like they massively took a lot away from me, because like, you know, I literally like the story, I like the graphics, I like the music, I like the gameplay, and you know, when those things are so positive, you kind of, when you have these negative kind of elements, it's like, you know, you kind of almost tolerate them a little bit. So
well, you can tolerate them. Right. No, what I will say in their defence is, it's quite generous with the health, so you get quite a long health bar.
True.
The bats only take off a tiny, I think they take a quarter heart or a quarter circle.
Yeah, it's not much, is it?
So you can take quite a lot of, for like bat hits, and bat hit crazy. You can take quite a lot of bat hits, and obviously the health like potions stuff are quite discoverable, and so it does sort of balance it out. But I have to chuck in the pot at the same time the dogs, which you also said you didn't mind, but I couldn't stand.
I didn't mind the dogs. I saw a lot of people saying about the dogs, but like, I mean, they're quick, but like you can see them coming, so you can, a lot of the time, for a lot of the game, I mean, like I only probably took a few hits from them, because you can see when they're gonna when they're coming onto the screen.
I think this is the other positive that you have to. That it is a curve. The bats are annoying because they're quite randomized, but the dogs are a bit easier, because when you do get to know the levels, and you can have the satisfaction of like cracking the dog in the face with, I was going to say the axe, what is it, a stake, when you like crack you know, catch it right as it leaps at you, that is very satisfying, and it adds to it. But initially they're a bit hard. And then the swooping eagles. I'm going to stop moaning about the enemies now. Actually, there is one more, just which I have to mention. On the Waxworks level, is that level 2? And you know, with all the stuff flying around, there's some tiny thing. It's either a knife or a shoe. Yeah. Is it a shoe?
That's the worst.
Who throws a shoe?
No, I think it looks like a flying penknife. Yeah. And because it's so tiny, it's really irritated.
Can you kill it? Because I'm sure I've hit it and it didn't die.
Yeah, you can kill it. Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm obviously just
like it does the thing. Like on some of the later levels, you kind of come up some stairs into the level, and it's above you there. And if you stand in the right place and it drops down, you can hit it quite easily, because it's like got quite a simple kind of attack pattern, like where it just drops and stuff. But it's
just
the
so
hard
tiny
part
and quick.
That's it. It's small, and it's like, you know, sometimes it's like you can just mistime it and miss it completely. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, a lot of the time it's quite easy just to avoid them and just kind of go right
if
past
you just peg it.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to trying to take everything out, but obviously, but they respawn as well. That's the other thing. So you are better just ploughing on, but everything respawns.
Yeah.
You go. I don't think you even have to leave the frame. I think if you even put it off screen, it respawns.
Yeah, it's very small
aggressive
margin that you have to that you can move on and then just turn around and come back and it's there. And if it's like a couple of enemies, like it's like, oh man, those guys are back again. So,
sorry, it's bugging me now. Who says that line? Who throws a shoe?
Which one?
Oh, it's
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Groovy baby. Who throws a shoe? Man, it's retro everything. Who does throw a shoe?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever thrown a shoe? In Iraq, it's a major insult to throw your shoes at people.
I know, yeah.
When they toppled Saddam Hussein, they're all throwing their shoes.
I remember the statue falling. Yes, the first thing they did, whack it with the shoe.
Can't take it seriously because you just think Austin Powers. The whole scene, Austin Powers rocking up. I'm not going to do the voice again. So, but I mean, the enemies are tricky. I think the dogs, the eagles, the shoe, or penknife, whatever it is tricky. But it is a learning curve, and you do kind of get better at it. But there is one massive positive that we've got to go to that for me balanced everything out and just brought the whole thing together, and that's the music. Because
music's excellent.
Loved it. Absolutely. It's just, it's very, it's very gothic Castlevania-y, which is great. But I didn't.
And the thing is with it, sorry, go on.
Well, let's see if we were going to say the same. So I was going to say, like, for me, it isn't a Castlevania clone. Like, the music is obviously, it's of a kind, because it's like gothic, Hammond organ-y, type, like loud, like pacey, like music. But I didn't recognise any tunes. I might be wrong, you've got a better ear for this stuff, but it all just felt brilliant and very fitting to each of the levels. I thought it was great. Yeah.
The thing is, it's right. I felt like it was almost humble with it, and it worked in its favour, because take it as its own kind of thing. It's really good and the music is really strong. But then the thing is with it, it's like, what if you're the composer for this game? What are you going to do when you're going up against Castlevania? Yeah. It's like Castlevania has got some of the most classic tunes of all of video games. You know, it's like Simon's theme, Bloody Tears. You can't take those kind of tunes on. It's like, it's just, you can't do it. It's not a thing. And so it kind of got on with things and did its own thing. And it's like, it's really strong. It's not like musically as strong as the Castlevania tunes, but what is, you know what I mean?
No. And it really fits the levels though as well. So I think if you'd gone for something massive like a Simon's theme, it just would have been too big for the game. It's like, you needed something that was more fitting. Something to mention.
We did look up.
Go on.
Yes, go on.
I think you're going to say.
I was just going to shout out the guys who actually did the sound.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I saw it was Takashi Horiguchi and Yoko Wada. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know, but but they were the people who did the sound, and I got to give some real credit to those two for what they did, because it's a really good soundtrack overall. I think very strong.
I did clock the two of them, but I only really looked at the stuff that Yoko Wada had done, because the other fella, I couldn't find anything else. Apart, he got a few thank yous on some games with Yoko Wada or with Sims, but it seemed like he just cropped up for this and then disappeared. It's like...
Yeah, well, Yoko Wada, she did Fantasy Zone, Outrun and Aladdin from what I saw. But Takashi Horiguchi... he did there was a whole list of stuff that I saw actually, but like the standout ones were Alien Syndrome and Ninja Gaiden. But they're actually credited under different names in the credits of the game. I think
it was definitely a thing. Japanese devs loved having different names.
Like kind of nicknames or something. And I did see online reasons, but Takashi Horiguchi was credited as Fumi. And there was actually some confusion. I saw some websites incorrectly attribute that credit to Fumi Kumatani, who was another composer, I believe, a lady who worked for Sega, but she didn't actually work there till 1996, so it wasn't her. And I think I saw this particular website correcting it, but Yoko Wada was credited as Nasubi, I think. So that was the name that she was going under in the credits there. So but like, you just got to doff your hat to the
Doff
good
your New
work
York
they
cap.
did for them.
Well, I could.
Yeah.
Two things is one is your Japanese name pronunciation is getting chef's kiss
It's
much better.
getting better.
And the other
good
is
to hear.
get your facts right, internet, because that is a different person.
Got being outers.
But also you went down a different theme from where I was thinking of going, because we also mentioned in the music around Simon's theme, and it's an interesting thing on the timing, because when you suggested this game, I just immediately assumed that in terms of the chronology, that Master of Darkness on the Master System and Game Gear would have been up against not the original NES Castlevania, but maybe one of the second or third ones, whatever. Basically 8-bit games. But actually, we found that the SNES game came out in 1991, and this game came out in 1982, right? So it was actually technically up against the SNES. Yeah.
Super Castlevania 4, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
So Game Boy had its, I think, either the first and second Game Boy game, I think, were out as well. So I suppose it was up against them too. But yeah, you just think, like you were saying, you can't go up against the music on SNES Castlevania. It's like it's an absolute behemoth, and it's
I mean, there's so many like covers and stuff like that online of like full bands, orchestras, all this stuff. Like it's so revered, and it's revered because it's so good. It's so classic, and it's so well composed. It's just
it still gives you chills. And it's I actually fired it up about a month ago, and just to listen to the music, and I do that quite often because it's just so good. And then the music pulls you into the game, and I would say this achieved that too. It isn't on the Castlevania level, but it really is very good, and it's
very strong.
Bear in mind as well, this is 8-bit music as well. It's not got. It did make me think. I think we said this earlier. It would have been great to have a Mega Drive version of this, because
it would have been amazing if they'd done a sequel.
I'm just surprised, because actually they did land something here, and if they'd have built on it with the extra graphics and the extra power, the extra sprite capability, the extra music of the Mega Drive, they could have started an IP here. They got something.
Could have been really something.
I guess maybe Konami were coming in. They were coming into the fold, and so I guess you don't want the conflict, right?
In the Mega Drive generation, that's when they were getting the third parties, and you did have Bloodlines or New Generation, like for us, wasn't it? But oh man, what a game that was! That's I mean, other than Street Fighter 2, that's probably maybe Sonic as well, but that's definitely in my top 4 of most played Mega Drive games.
It's a beauty.
I mean, that game is fantastic.
And it makes sense actually saying that, doesn't it? If you want to keep Konami sweet, but you want to dip your toe in, put it on the 8-bit, and then you've got something there that you can sort of build on if you had wanted to. If the whole plan hadn't worked out, you started an IP. But no, I thought it was good. I thought the whole thing came together pretty well. I think it's a good package. I did notice, we didn't say earlier, we were saying about the cutscenes, we both really liked them and thought it was good. And I read a few reviews, and what was it, Sega Force? I never read Sega Force. That was a UK magazine though, wasn't it? And
Sega Force, Sega Pro, Sega Power.
Sega Pro was ours.
Yeah. I do sort of think I remember the logo. Yeah, I mean, it was not one that I kind of.
I don't remember if I've just seen it online though, because obviously now everything blurs into one. But the point is, they didn't like this particularly. I think they gave it 70 something, and they said they didn't like the music and they didn't like the cutscenes. And I'm like,
I mean, I've seen some people say that the music is a bit weak, but then again, part of it is they put it up against Castlevania, and they'd be like, oh, well, it ain't as good as Castlevania. It's not that great. But it's like we're saying, you put it up against pretty much the best. So.
Well, I got to ask you this, because I only really know Castlevania myself from 16-bit onwards, and you're a massive fan and know all of them. If you did put it up against 8-bit Castlevania, how does that fare? Because it's like, it's got obviously good music, but not as much range, I guess.
Yeah, I would say it's favor. It's I feel like. I don't know. It's such a hard thing to think of.
No, it's subjective, like a legend. Isn't it? But it's and that's obviously what they struggle with. But the point being, if in people's heads, if they're putting up against 16-bit Castlevania or onwards, because obviously you've got a CD later on, but it's like, That's not fair, and I think it's really strong. And anyone who doesn't think it's strong, I know it's subjective, but also you're wrong, because this is great music.
I mean, yeah, totally. It's a strong package, like all round. Like the graphics are good, the gameplay is good. It's like the sound is good. It's like it's a good game. It's like it's always had a special, as long as I've had it, however long that's been, that I can't remember. But like, when people say Master of Darkness, I'm like, yeah, that's like a cool game, It's like that's what it does for me.
And not to harp on about, I'll tell you this as well. Outside of the book club, right? If I just because I had this on the Amber Nick as just one of the preloaded ROMs. Outside of that, I'd have played it and I'd have given up really quick. And because the enemies are annoying, and you really have to get used to it and learn some of the timing, and then start to hit them before you can start to really enjoy certainly the later levels. And it's a real blessing that you do have that additional focus to persevere with it, because I think
it was worth it.
Yeah, and you get into it. I can't pretend I didn't find it a bit frustrating later, because it's hard.
It has its moments.
It sort of had me curse a little bit, and I only got to level 4, so it's kind of
Well, at the level 3 when you're fighting Masson on the clock face, and it's got the hands like that, and you're walking on the hands. Well, when there's 3 little enemies or something, they jump off and you kind of follow them by jumping down to face him. And I jumped right to the side of the screen, and right at the end of the clock hands there's a little gap, and I fell down the hole there. And it's like, how am I supposed to know that? It's like, what I mean? And then literally bang, beginning of the level. It's like, that's out of order. So it has it does have its moments.
Well, I am amazed that that's a thing, because that didn't happen to me, so you have my sympathies.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this is not as bad as that by a long stretch, because this is level 1, but I had my first playthrough of it, like I breezed through level 1 and kind of like got straight through it and whatever. And the second playthrough, like about 5 or 6 days later, which I should point out is the first playthrough was ages ago, because we first mooted this game like a couple of months ago, so we only did our focus fortnight more recently. So when I came back to it, I was thinking, oh yeah, great, I'll start again. And 3, maybe 4 times I died with one of those deaths where an enemy hits you and then you fall in the water. And I was like, oh my god, this is so annoying. So it has its moments, but no, it's really good. I enjoy it. I'm glad we've played it, and spooky horror. It was good. Good timing as well.
I'm well scared. I was bricking it the whole way through.
That's the most sarcastic review ever. I was well scared. So I'm glad. Well, we won't preview our next video, because this is a Spookfest special.
Spectacular one-off kind of special kind of thing, isn't it?
So for me, like that's kind of where I wanted to get to the game. I enjoyed it, and I think we've covered all the bases on the spooky basis.
If you like Castlevania, play this game, because it's decent. So,
I will say one thing: if you are listening on the podcast, come join us on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, go listen to the podcast. So there you go. I was going to start getting the habit of reminding people we are multi-channel, multimedia organisation, baby. Yes.
We're out of control.
Yeah.
We're all over the show.
You sound a bit like one of the Backstreet Boys here. We're out of control. And it was Westlife, wasn't it? Wicked and wild and seriously funky.
What kind of music are you listening to?
All
the Wicked and Wild and seriously funky.
That's Westlife, isn't it? Anyway.
I don't know.
Or NSYNC? Who knows?
Check your t-shirt collection. I'm sure you got it in
there. So we always used to say it, but it's lost in the mist of time now who it actually was. It was someone that
Wait, isn't it like E17?
So it's someone
something like that. The memory is awakening in my head.
It's probably my terrible impression. See if we can do it again. Wicked and wildin' and seriously funky. Ringing any bells?
Yeah. What? He's 17. Like I just said.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
there you go. You got it twice, so enjoy. So there you go.
There you go.
I'm happy.
Any further announcements? Anything you want to cover? Or
I think I've ashamed myself deep enough. Thanks.
good stuff then. Well, then I suppose on that note, with all this being said, wait.
So, yeah, he thinks I'm going to edit that bit out. I'm not.
It's been great.